Sorry, I ran out of time for the stinger.
So when a turtle comes in, the first thing that we actually do is we take it to Marlin Coast Vet Hospital. And we also do an x-ray if the animal's small enough to put through the x-ray machine. One of our turtles, Charlie, he came in, he was doing really well, was eating, sitting on the bottom, and then started floating again. And so we put him through an x-ray and we really couldn't pick up what was the matter with him. So we put him through a CAT scan and we actually found that he had a severe blockage and also fishing line involved, which we'd actually got some out 6 months earlier, but still had some more fishing line involved in his intestinal tract. Unfortunately, Charlie died, but we learned a lot from Charlie. We learned that we really need more resources so we can actually act on these animals quicker.
Volunteering isn't always the easiest thing for people to do in amongst busy lives, and sometimes I might be a little tired on a Saturday morning, but every time I go to the turtles I leave there feeling so much better than when I first walked in.
There's no better feeling than an animal that comes in and it's actually on the brink of death. It's rehabilitated and then it's ready for release, and it gets released back out into the wild where it belongs.
People often say to me, well, what good can saving 5 or 6 turtles actually do in the scheme of things? And it may be a small part, but every one of those turtles does make a difference to the population. And I think it would be quite a tragedy to know that it's on our heads as humans that this incredible animal that's been on Earth for so long has disappeared because of us.
Hello. The buzzing. Okay. Hello. I love doing the podcast in this house. Oh my god. So I'm in Slick's room. Slick doesn't have doors. So I'm sorry, this is very distracting. Hello. Okay, we're back for the podcast. We meant to have this podcast a few weeks ago with Jenny Gilbert with Cairn's Turtle Rehabilitation Center. But we were unable to do so for some reasons. Are my headphones really backwards? Oh, fuck. Shoot. Okay. So this is off to a great start. We were meant to have this podcast a few weeks ago, but oh, yeah, my mom actually is watching. Hi, Mom. Hi, Dad. Sorry. That was an accident. So today we're going to be talking to Jenny Gilbert. Everybody say, hi, Mom, smile. Jenny Gilbert is a marine biologist. She's a zoologist. She has her PhD. She's the founder of Cairn's Turtle Rehabilitation Center. They founded in 2000. So we're really, really lucky to be able to talk to her. Cairns does really, really impressive things for sea turtles. 6 out of the 7 of our marine turtle species. They're located in Australia. So for her, I believe it's 11 a.m. Her time. But they do research, they do rescue, they do rehabilitation, they do release, they do education. So we get to talk to her about all of those things today. I don't know anything about sea turtles, so I'm excited to learn about them and about what Cairns does for them. So I we'll call Jenny up. We'll talk about where your donations today are going to go. It's hooked up to their PayPal today, so it goes straight to their organization, which is the way that I like doing it. So we're lucky to have that set up as well, and it should be a good conversation. I had a call with Jenny and we tested everything, and there's a little bit of an echo, so you guys are gonna have to let me know if the audio's really bad. I'm not sure what I can do about it, but we'll work it out together if that's cool with you guys. So that's the plan. Let's get into it. Okay. I'll be back. I'm gonna move Slick's laundry because it looks really unprofessional.
Hello? Hi. Oh, it was up the top. Oh.
Here we go, yeah.
Okay.
Hello. Oh, that's
Hello.
me. Hold on. Brilliant. Hi, how are you doing?
I'm very well, thank you, Maya. And you?
Good. I'm really good. Chat, is the audio okay? It
Yes,
sounds better.
I can hear you very clearly.
Great. Okay, it sounds better than our test call on my end. We got a start. Oh my gosh, Jarno with a $50 donation to start us off. Cool. So hi Jenny, I did a brief introduction of you to my viewers here. There's 947 people so far, so thank you guys for tuning in. I appreciate it. Could you tell us, there's $50 so far in donations from Jarno. Jarno, thank you. Could you tell us a little bit about yourself and about Cairns, and let them know where their donations are going to today?
Okay, so I'm Jenny, and I'm actually one of the co-founders of Cairns Turtle Rehabilitation Centre. So Cairns Rehabilitation Centre is a totally voluntary organisation. And how it actually started was, there was an old aquarium in Cairns. Another marine biologist and myself were asked if we would look after a turtle that came in from the Great Barrier Reef, and she was injured. And while we were rehabilitating her, they closed down the aquarium. And so we were left with a very large turtle, a 1.1 metre turtle that weighed approximately 110 kilos. So not something that fits in your bathtub.
Yeah,
We were
wow.
donated our first piece of land by a company called Sun Lover,
I
and
think
we set up, and they were excellent. They donated a piece of land down near the water. They were giving away family passes for each piece of fencing. So that's how we actually built it, which was fantastic. And
oh,
one turtle. And now we actually have 5 centres. We have over 150 local volunteers. We have university students that come and learn about marine reptiles. And we also have overseas volunteerism.
wow.
So it's fantastic the way it's actually grown. It's amazing.
That's so cool. I didn't realize you had so many volunteers. That's wonderful.
It's fantastic. And the other thing is, so the money that we get as donations, turtles cost a lot of money to rehabilitate.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we're putting a lot of food. We have to pay for their food, and we also have to pay for their treatment. So, and we also put satellite trackers on them. So thank you everybody that's actually donating this. 100% of this money goes towards the animals. It doesn't go towards anything else.
Awesome. So Alex tipped $1. Alex, thank you for doing that. My camera's, sorry, I'm getting a little, okay. So you guys work with is it 6 out of 7 species of marine turtles?
Yes, so in Far North Queensland or in Australia, we have the 7 species of marine turtles. We have greens, we have hawksbills, we have olive ridleys, loggerheads, leatherbacks, and we have one that has a little stamp in it that says "Made in Australia," and it's a flatback.
Oh,
And it
cool.
only occurs, and it's stamped so we know where it comes from. So,
Wow.
and it only occurs in the Australian waters and southern Papua New Guinean waters. And
Okay.
it's a very, very different turtle from most turtles because leatherbacks, as you know, leatherbacks actually have ridges on their back. The other turtles have scutes or scales, which are keratin, the same as our fingernails, and they grow a bigger one underneath, and that top one falls off. Flatbacks actually have a skin over them, so they grow out sideways. So they're a very different animal.
Okay. So Botox. I'm sorry I missed your $50 donation. Botox, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Cents with $1.01. I forgot to mention this in the intro, guys. There will be a quiz. We do a little quiz at the end of these podcasts to give the viewers an opportunity to either win a subscription or to donate another $5 to your organization. So if you guys are listening the whole time, there will be a quiz at the end. So we'll talk, there will be 5 questions, right? You guys know how it goes on some of the stuff that we talk about today. And then also, if you guys have questions, you're welcome to @Saito in chat. We have an open doc, so I can ask Jenny your questions. So you founded Cairns in 2000 with
In the year 2000,
in the year 2000.
co-founded the Cairns Turtle Rehabilitation Centre with another marine biologist, Paul Barnes.
Mm-hmm. And how did you get so interested in turtles? I know you talked about that one story, but tell us more.
Well, it was interesting. I used to live in Papua New Guinea,
Mm-hmm.
and I'd go to the markets every week, and I found that they have turtles as a food source, and I couldn't help myself. I started to buy the turtles and release them.
Oh my gosh,
And
I didn't know that people ate them.
yeah, it's a food source of a lot of Indigenous people, but I used to just buy them and release them. And so we buy them and release them,
Okay.
which is a very, very expensive episode, let me tell you, because they were about $100 each.
Wow.
And so I started off that way, and then we came back to Australia. And what happened was we've actually got a veterinary clinic, and somebody bought 52 turtle eggs in that had been dug up because a dog was actually digging these eggs up and eating them. So they saved 52, and they bought them in, and we put a light on them, and we hatched the whole 52.
Oh my
So I
gosh.
had a very, very, very fast learning curve on what you do with turtles.
That's
So,
amazing.
so it was a lot of reading. It was a lot of what do you actually do with them? And so reading and talking to people, we released 48 of them after 2 weeks.
Wow.
Because what happens is when they hatch out of their egg,
in the sand, they take about 2 to 3 days to come to the surface, and they have a little egg sac on them, and that's their food source.
Huh.
And what happened was we'd actually hatched them early, so they still had their little egg sac on them. So we waited until that was absorbed before we released them. And we released 48 of them, and 4 of them stayed behind, and we released 4 later on when they were a little bit stronger. And then after that, I thought, well, my days of turtles were actually over. And then, of course, working at the aquarium, we got Angie in, and that's where it's all started from.
Yeah, very cool. Aurora with $20. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So there, I have Tara with $20. Thank you so much. How cool.
Thank you.
Your rehabilitation and release rate has grown from 30 to 85%. I think that's something that Cyto found on your website. That's amazing.
Yes, well, but what happened was it's really interesting, and this is the benefit of a rehabilitation centre and education. Through education and awareness, when we first started, people would see a turtle that was on the surface floating, and they'd think, oh, great, I can get photos, and that turtle's on the surface. Through education and awareness and media, people now realise that turtles on the surface are actually in trouble. So they're ringing through. We have a 1300 animal stranding hotline. They ring through this hotline, and we're getting turtles in a lot faster now. So the earlier we get a turtle in, the better chance we have of rehabilitation. And actually our rehabilitation rate is up to about 90% now, which is fantastic. And it's all due to, awareness, education, and media.
Yeah, so what do you guys do with education? How do you go about doing that?
So on Fitzroy Island and also at the aquarium, what happens is we have tours.
Okay.
And we talk about the threats. We have a turtle. People, if they can physically see an animal, we have a better chance of people being more aware and wanting to help these animals.
Yeah, absolutely.
So what we do is we take them around a tank. They actually physically see these animals, and we talk about the threats. Mm-hmm. We talk about their life history. We talk about the plight, what's happening in the future, and what they can do to help with these animals. And people are becoming very aware, and we have a lot of people that come out of those talks that say, we didn't know that. Mm-hmm. We want to step forward and help.
Yeah. So you mentioned that when people see turtles on the surface, they usually need help. Why is that? What is that about?
So turtles, one of the major problems that turtles get is floater syndrome. And that's a term for air under their shell. And that can be caused by an impaction from marine debris, plastics, polystyrofoam, fishing line, fishing hooks. They can also get a compromised immune system from eating a toxin in the water. It causes a blockage in their intestine. They get a gas buildup. They float to the surface, and they're unable to dive. And they either starve to death, or they can be predated on by a larger animal, or they can be hit by a boat. They can also get injuries in their shell, and that can cause an infection and cause a gas pocket underneath there as well. So it's a very, very sad thing. And sometimes we get some of the turtles in that are literally just a shell. They've been floating for so long. It's just a very sad thing to see.
Oh my gosh. So is that the biggest issue turtles have with human conflict is plastics and debris?
Turtles suffer many, many threats from, unfortunately, anthropogenic human interaction. Of course, ingestion of plastics is a huge one. They can also be hit by a boat. They can be caught on a fishing line. Mm-hmm. Long lining in Australia is, they're stepping forward, but a lot of other places they have long lining. They're caught on that. They're caught on shark drum lines. Mm-hmm. They can be caught in nets on fishing. They're dropped on the deck.
What's a shark drum line?
A shark drum line is where they have the drum lines and hooks out to catch sharks along beaches.
Okay.
And that's all around the world that they have those. Mm. And so they have that. They can also be caught in commercial fishing nets, mm-hmm. and they can be dropped onto a boat. They can also be their natural predators are crocodiles and sharks, the mm-hmm. larger fish. But also there's loss of nesting beaches now because of development. People are building onto the closer to the ocean. They've lost their nesting beaches, rock walls. They can also have the little hatchlings can follow the lights of street lights when they hatch out, and they can be run over. So
Oh,
they have enormous amounts of threats. It's huge. Predation by, feral animals when they actually lay their nests, because turtles actually lay their nests on land. They have so many threats that it's amazing.
is that baby turtles going towards street lamps? Is that a similar? Is that phototaxis like in moths? Like do they use the moon as well to navigate?
Yes, so they go towards the light, and what happens
Oh.
is when they hatch, they'll go towards the light. Unfortunately, with street lights on and with lights on, and restaurants being closer to the water houses,
Hmm.
they'll go towards that, and they can actually either be run over, or they can just perish, or they can be attacked by an animal.
Oh, that's devastating. Um, a few donations to read out. Dan tipped $10, Laugh
Thank
with
you.
$5, Space with $5, and Nems with $100. Nems, thank
Oh,
you so much.
thank you, everybody.
Nems is a streamer as well. Thank you so much. I appreciate that a lot. Um, so out of the 7 species of marine turtles, how many are threatened or endangered?
So green sea turtles, under the IUCN, which is international, green sea turtles are threatened.
Mm-hmm.
Olive ridleys are in Australia are endangered, and they're under threatened in other countries. Hawksbills are critically endangered. Leatherbacks are critically endangered, and
Wow.
loggerheads are endangered or threatened. So,
Wow.
and flatbacks are really an unknown, because there's only research into them has only been done, well, fairly recently, and they really don't know the numbers, but they still come under the threatened and vulnerable.
Wow. That's a lot more than I thought. I didn't realize that they were struggling so much.
And your species over in America, the Kemp's Ridley, is
Mm-hmm.
critically endangered.
Jeez.
So these animals all have a status. They're either they're under threatened to critically endangered, which is bad.
Yeah. So why is it? This is kind of a big question, but why Spoon and Snow Spoon with $25 and Snow with $10 and Bernie with $20? Jeez, thank you guys so much.
Thank you, everybody.
Um, Kind of a big question, but why is it important to do rehabilitation and to help the turtles?
Look, rehabilitation is really interesting. The first rehabilitation actually was in America, and it was about 86 or something. A lady in the backyard actually started rehabilitation, and now there's a lot of rehabilitation centres. It's really, really important, because the fact of, a turtle comes in, beforehand they had nowhere to go. But it's not only the rehabilitation. You're rehabilitating a turtle and sending it back out into the ocean, which is fantastic. And if that turtle goes on to breed, it's great. But
Mm-hmm.
it's also the educational component. People didn't have the chance beforehand to actually see a turtle up close and, talk about the threats. So it's the educational component, that if we can show people a turtle, then people will step forward to want to help these species. And it's a big snowball thing of people, going and seeing the turtles, learning about them, and going, I want to help these animals. They really do have a problem. So, as I said, it's not only the rehabilitation component of it, it's actually the educational component. And also, we're learning a lot about turtle diseases, what turtles actually, the plight of them, the threats that they encounter every day out in the ocean. Also, turtles now that have been released, we put a satellite tracker on them, so we can monitor their health profile,
Oh, how
and we can also
cool.
monitor the distances. We can monitor where they're going, and we can look at then putting forward conservation areas.
Yeah. Do you have a number of how many releases you guys have done?
Uh, may I know?
That's okay.
um, I think it's about over 150.
Wow, that's awesome. Locke with $50, Wilshire with $20. We're at $387 in donations, which is insane. You guys did that
Thank you,
super
everybody.
fast.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Yeah, so that was the next thing I was gonna ask about was you guys do research. You do rehabilitation, rescue, education, research.
And
So
research, yes.
yeah, so part of your
So
research is those trackers, and tell us more about that, please. That's cool.
So I'm actually doing postgraduate at James Cook University, And when my first project was looking at blood parameters, so we can actually get a baseline. So looking at sick and healthy animals. So it was a baseline on their bloods. And now what I'm looking at is post-rehabilitation success with satellite tracking, but also I'm looking at their threats and treatment and what we can do to actually help the diseases of these animals.
Rocky with $50. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, that's awesome. So when you say you put trackers on the turtles, what does that look like physically?
So a satellite tracker on a turtle, what we do is actually I can grab the tracker. A satellite tracker that we put on a turtle, we put it on one scoot. So we actually attach it with an epoxy. And when they have a growth spurt, that actual scoot comes off. That actual tracker comes off. Now, if anyone can see, that's actually a tracker.
Oh, okay. I see.
So actually, that's quite a big tracker because it's still got the epoxy on it because we actually retrieve this off an animal. But as you can see there, it's got a very bendy, it's got a flexible aerial. And so what happens is that tracker is attached to the turtle on that scoot. And every time the turtle comes to the surface, it actually needs to have the satellite going around, and it'll download onto my computer where that turtle is.
That's so
It's
cool.
fantastic. I mean, we get a very, very accurate pinpointing.
Yeah.
And we can actually follow that turtle. In fact, I've got to say to you, it's addictive. When we've got a turtle out there with a satellite tracker, I think I spend most of my time on the computer going, where are you? Where are you? Where are you?
Yeah, totally. And what do you do with that information when you know where they are? How does that?
So that information then goes into papers, and it's actually published through, and we can actually send it also off to the government, and we can look at the areas where they're actually spending their time. So therefore we can see, if they're spending a lot of time in one area, if they're a green sea turtle, there's good seagrass beds. If they're hawksbills, there's good sponges, and there's good, feeding areas around. So what we can do at that is we can actually say, okay, well, these areas, let's go a bit more of a go slow area, especially seagrass beds. We can put signs up saying, go slow, turtles live in this area.
I see.
And because turtles actually, they can live in the ocean, but they breathe air the same as we do. They come to the surface to breathe air. So what we want to do is we actually want to highlight that area. Turtles come up in this area to breathe air and they forage here. Please do a go slow area.
Yeah, that's awesome. We had a podcast on manatees a few weeks back and talked about similar stuff.
Same.
Yeah, they put the trackers look different, but similar. So wait. Rocky was the last one. Raptor with $5, SMK with $20, and DL with $20. Thank you guys so much. You guys put hearts in chat for the donators today. That's insane. So if you wouldn't mind, there are a few questions that have come from the viewers that are really good. A lot of really good questions already. So one of them is from Zorro. Zorro asked, how many eggs do they lay, and how many babies survive on their way to the ocean?
So the female will come up. She doesn't nest every year. She probably nests every 2 to 5 years because they use so much energy laying these eggs. And if you can imagine dragging all that weight up the beach, and then she'll lay between 1 and 7 nests in a season, and she'll lay between 50 to 150 eggs at a time, depending on the species. Hawksbills only lay about 50. The others lay between about 100 and 150 eggs.
Wow.
And then after about 60 days, what happens is that these eggs all hatch together. They're actually new age turtles now. They tweeted each other. They found that they actually tweeted each other, and that means time to go through and hatch out. And they hatch, and they take actually 2 to 3 days to come to the surface, as I was saying. And then on the way down, unfortunately, when they come to the surface, they all run down together. Birds get them, crabs get them. When they get into the water, all the fish are lined up like little canapes. And then if they can get through that, then they swim as fast as they can, and they swim about 50 kilometres out to sea, and that's where they sit for the first 5 to 10 years of their life. Unfortunately, what they say is 1 in 1,000 turtles makes it through to adulthood.
Wow. Are they just easy targets for other predators?
Very easy targets.
That's crazy. I didn't realize that they had so many, but I guess that's a good thing. then, because that's a terrible survival rate.
But that's why they lay so many eggs, because
Right.
it's such a high rate of, you know, when you think 1 in 1,000 turtles makes it through to adulthood, if she lays between 5 and 7 nests, she may not even get any successes out of that.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense. Josh tipped $10, Kat with $20, OSD with $8. So we've hit our $500 donation goal very quickly. Thank you guys so much. Or actually, at $520 already. You said so they stay in that 50 meters out for the first 5 to 10 years of their life.
About 50 kilometres out.
50 kilometers.
50 kilometres out.
Right.
Oh, you work in miles, don't you?
That's okay. I was trying to think which one we were talking about.
Sorry, everybody. We work in kilometres.
No, that's fine.
So they go about 50 kilometres out to sea.
Okay.
And they actually, what they do is they follow the tide line.
Uh-huh.
And at that time, they're actually omnivores. So they're eating everything they can at that stage.
Okay. And how long do they take to reach reproductive maturity?
So so reproduction is between 20 and 50 years, which is really tragic when you think about it.
Gosh.
So it's a long time before they reach reproductive age, and unfortunately, the amount of threats that can occur before that time is amazing, and that's why they say 1 in 1,000 turtles makes it through to adulthood or reproductive age.
Oh, no kidding. That's crazy. Uber with $3. Thank you. Uber tipped a question, asked, how do turtles eat jellyfish without being stung? That's a good question.
Yeah, it's really interesting, isn't it? It's so they can eat jellyfish without being stung. They have in their actually esophagus, they have these spicules that are downward spicules, and they just don't they're immune to it. They're immune to getting stung. And, of course, we have box jellyfish here, which you do in Hawaii as well, and irukandji, and they seem to be able to eat these animals without any effect. So it's probably the fact of the spicules that are in their esophagus, they stop it from getting, any stings.
Wow. Very cool. So what do their diets look like, too? So they're omnivorous in the first 5 to 10 years, so they'll eat grasses and jellyfish and squid and...
So in the first 5 to 10 years of their life, yes, they are omnivores, so they're eating everything that they, it's along that tide line. Then when they come in shore as specialised feeders, green sea turtles eat seagrass or algae, and that's a benefit, as with manatees too, they're keeping the seagrass beds from overtaking everything. Hawksbills eat sponges and cones like that. And the best thing about that is that hawksbills have got it worked out. They only eat the common sponges. They don't eat the rare ones. So that stops the common sponges from overtaking the rare ones, which is fantastic.
Oh, cool.
And then the others eat crustaceans, and of course leatherbacks are known to eat a lot of jellyfish.
Yeah, so something that I've seen some graphics made online and some social media stuff about, because they eat jellyfish, it's easy for them to ingest plastic by mistake. One question that Harder Style asked was, what are her thoughts on the Save the Turtles movement with the shift away from plastic straws, and then I guess plastics in general?
Well, we're very lucky in Australia. We've got actually little Molly No Straw, who started off at 8 years old against banning straws in cans.
Okay.
And we actually don't have plastic straws in cans now, which is fantastic. Straws really need to be banned worldwide. The amount of damage that they do to turtles, and it's not only turtles, it's other animals as well. You've got your seabirds, you've got your dolphins. Plastics as a whole is a disaster to marine animals and terrestrial animals as well. So what we do in our talks is we talk about alternatives to plastic, what you can do in your household to stop buying plastic and to stop using plastic and say no to straws and plastic.
Danny tipped $32. Zoyo tipped $5. Danny with $32. Danny, thank you so much. Asked,
Thank you.
Is there anything that can be done to better the chances of survival of the 1 in 1,000 turtle hatchlings?
Look, it's really, it's hard, because now we have another threat, and that's climate change. Yeah. Because turtles actually aren't sex chromosome dependent, they're actually sand temperature dependent. So with increased sand temperatures, we're actually getting feminism.
Oh, this is so interesting. I don't know if we've talked about this on my channel before.
But, oh, right. Okay. Yeah, well, it's really interesting. So as I said, when they lay their eggs, it's not a sex chromosome dependent.
Mm-hmm.
So it's temperature dependent. So 29 degrees is the pivotal temperature between males, be having 50% males and females. Anything over 30 degrees, you're getting females. Anything under that, you're getting males. But of course, what's happening with climate change is you're getting increased sand temperatures.
Mm-hmm.
And with the increased sand temperatures, we're getting feminism.
Isn't that crazy, you guys?
It's just ridiculous. And I mean, of course, what's happening is everybody around the world is scrambling to put, do covers over the nest, do what they can to keep the sand temperatures down. But we've also got a region called Cape York, which is up in far north Queensland. And, those beaches are so remote and there's a lot of nesting there that, it can't occur. We're saving all of those nests. So, for the first few years, it'll be fine because we have a lot of males out there, but it's going to become a problem. If we're going to get total feminism, we're going to have a problem. So it's another huge threat that we've got going towards turtle survival.
Yeah, I've learned about that, the temperature dependent sex stuff with other reptiles like snakes, but I'd never thought of climate change and how that affects that. That's really interesting.
Yes.
And
sad.
And super sad, yeah, especially with taking that long to reach reproductive maturity and not having an equal number. I mean, that's crazy. So thank you for asking that question, Danny. That was a good question.
And of course, the other problem is that I didn't talk about is there's also illegal hunting out there, and also hawksbills are hunted for their shell, for tortoiseshell jewelry and tortoiseshell furniture. So say no to tortoiseshell.
I didn't know that was a thing either.
It's huge, yeah. Tortoiseshell, when you see tortoiseshell jewelry and tortoiseshell furniture and tortoiseshell sunglasses, they're hunted, and those turtles are actually hunted for their shell.
Wow.
And green sea turtles are hunted for their meat. So, if you see tortoiseshell, say no to it and turtle meat.
That's good to know. Chat, if you are tuning in, this is Jenny Gilbert. She's the founder of Cairn's Turtle Rehabilitation Center, and all the way from Australia. So really cool that we're talking to her. AKA with $25. Thank you so much. Speaking of donations, your donations today will all go to the Rehabilitation Center to help with education, rehab, release, and research of sea turtles, marine turtles. So that's where we're at right now. We're talking about threats to turtles, and we're answering viewer questions. If you have questions, you can @Saito in chat, and they will come to me, and I'll say them. So feel free to do that. More questions. Who asked, his name is who, asked, are turtles born with a shell or do they develop over time?
So when the female will lay her eggs, and it's a calcium, it's like a calcareous shell that they have on it, but it's like a ping pong ball. They're really quite interesting. So they allow gas exchange through that shell, and they also retain water in there. And so what happens is, as the turtle develops and it's ready for it to hatch, then they have a little egg tooth, and their little beak just breaks through that egg, and they break out of the egg, and then they come up to the surface.
Cool. I didn't know that they had egg teeth as well, like birds do.
Yes, they've got a little egg tooth, and it just breaks through that egg, and then they all come up. But as I said, techno turtles, they all tweeted each other first of all.
Yeah, that's so cool. Yeah, guys, American Eagle Foundation talked about egg teeth with their bald eagles that hatched on the live cams a couple weeks ago. I Live asked, so how do you balance the number of male and female turtles then artificially? You talked briefly about covering the nests. Is there?
No, we don't do any. In Australia, we don't do any artificial hatcheries at all. So I know overseas that they sometimes will dig up the eggs and they'll actually put them into a hatchery, and then they'll actually release them. In Australia, we don't do any of that. So what we're doing is, with the research, is we're looking at how we can lower the sand temperatures, what we can put over the nest to keep the sand temperatures lower, and that's the research that's happening at the moment.
Okay, cool. This is going back a little bit, but Remy asked, what's the furthest they have tracked a sea turtle traveling?
Well, I read the other day, actually, there was a turtle that came from South Africa and tracked all the way over to Western Australia. So that was quite amazing.
Oh my gosh. That's
I know.
amazing.
It's a long way.
That's crazy. And is it true that they always do they return to the same spot for nesting? Or is that not a
Yes,
thing?
they do. So when females are born, and they think that the reason why they take 2 to 3 days to come to the surface is they're actually imprinting the whole time. So they're imprinting on the sand, they're imprinting on the salinity, and then they
Oh.
come to the surface and they run down the beach and they actually imprint all the way down there. And then a female may be thousands of kilometres away from her breeding grounds. She'll be in feeding grounds and she'll be over there on feeding grounds. When it's time for her to actually breed and start nesting, she'll go back to the beach that she's born on. So they may traverse the ocean thousands of kilometres in between their breeding grounds and feeding grounds. But they're that good at it that we actually had some nests over on Fitzroy Island where our rehabilitation centre is.
Mm-hmm.
And 7 years ago, we had some nests there. And then 2 years ago, we had some more nests, and she was within a metre of her other nests.
Oh my gosh.
So it's really quite amazing. And then
That's
this
so
year, we've had
cool.
some, and they're in about 2 or 3 metres of the other nest. So it's really, it's really amazing. These animals, through 150 million years that they've been around, they've actually got it really worked out.
Wow. I've never heard of imprinting in that context, like imprinting on salinity or imprinting on.
Well, they seem to know it's a safe area. They're born there, so they go back to that area and they know or was a safe area when they're born.
Yeah.
And so it's the salinity and sand, and they know that, that's an area that they came from. So, imprinting is a really amazing thing in all animals. It's not only turtles, it's all animals that they imprint and they actually know, where to go to.
Spoon, thank you for the $13. Oh, and 95 cents. So he hit our $600 goal. That's why. Thank you so much, Spoon. That's insane.
Thank you, everyone.
Do you know anything about the mechanics of how they find their way back when they're that far away, besides just knowing that that's a safe place to be? Like how they navigate that?
They think it's to do with a lot of celestial navigation, magnetic force.
Yeah.
And also with the tides and the salinity going back with it.
Oh, okay. So the salinity does come into play. They're that sensitive to it.
And all of that. So it all comes into it. So when we're talking also about the tracking, we're talking about distances. I was going to say also, we had a turtle that, an olive ridley turtle, and olive ridleys occur in far north Queensland. And this turtle was found off the heads of Sydney. Mm-hmm. And so Taronga Zoo actually picked it up. It was taken into Taronga Zoo, and they rang us and said, look, do you want to come and get your turtle? It doesn't belong here. Mm-hmm. It's an olive ridley. And so it flew back up. Qantas actually sponsor me and the turtles to fly, which is a fantastic thing. We can get turtles from all around Australia. Mm-hmm. This turtle got flown back up to Cairns, and it was only a little turtle. It was only, this big. It was an olive ridley. It had to go into veterinary care for a while.
Yeah.
And then we flew it up to Cape York, up to Lizard Island, and we released it with a satellite tracker on it. And, as I said, it's only a juvenile turtle. It did 2,980 kilometres. It went over the top of Australia and went down the other side.
Oh my gosh.
That's an amazing feat for a little turtle.
That's crazy.
So they certainly know where they want to go.
Yeah, no kidding. Oh my gosh. I wish they knew more about that. I like we had a shark guest on here as well, and sharks are really, really good at finding their way back to a place after traveling so far.
They are. Sharks are amazing too. And whale sharks, all of those, they're incredible. It's an amazing thing. I mean, animals, have really when you think turtles have been around for 150 million years and sharks have been around, these animals have really, it's obviously a magnetic force. It's obviously a celestial navigation. Mm-hmm. It's obviously to do with tides, salinity, environment. And these animals know exactly where to go to. Crocodiles are the same.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's so interesting. One thing that I'm seeing on this research that was done here was about conditions treated, and one of them is oil and tar ingestion. I don't know if we've talked about that, but I know that that's a big issue with seabirds. How does oil and tar affect sea turtles?
Well, turtles breathe air the same as we do, and they have lungs the same as us. Mm-hmm. And so what happens is that they, if they're caught in an oil spill, they actually ingest the oil into their lungs, or they can get it actually covered on them and they can't move their flippers, so they're unable to swim. It can
Jeez.
also cause a compromised immune system. They float to the surface. It can also affect their eyes, and they can go, can cause blindnesses. So the same as with seabirds, it's exactly the same as with, turtles and other sea animals.
Yeah.
It's a disaster. We have had a few in Australia, but I know there's been a lot more overseas.
Yeah. That's super, super sad. I've done some wildlife rehab with seabirds, but I've never, I'm not even sure that I've seen a sea turtle in person. Maybe I have. I don't know.
You need to go out and see one, Maya. They're really great.
Yeah, I know. I know that they're beautiful, but I can't recall seeing one in person. Guys, have you seen a sea turtle in person?
You should try and go to a rehabilitation centre. They're amazing animals. They all have their own little personality.
Mm-hmm.
Which is another thing that when we have visitors through the rehabilitation centre that we say, these have their own little personality, and they're all very different.
Yeah.
So they're quite incredible animals. They're quite personable.
How long do they live for? Is it general, or is it different across species?
They say that they live to about 100 plus, but research has only been done for the last 80 or 90 years, and that was in Florida and Hawaii. So we don't know. They might live for more than 100 years.
Yeah, that's
so
amazing.
It's expected probably about 100 years.
Got it. That's really cool. That's insane, though, that 30 to 50 years is when they're able to reproduce, though.
I know some of the species is up to 50 years before they reproduce, which is really sad.
Oh my gosh. Tara Buck asked, how quickly can they swim, or does it vary across species, or is it generic across all species?
They normally do speeds about probably 2 to 3 kilometers, and they're just coasting along. But if it's interesting because with the satellite tracking that I have, I can actually click onto one of the points, and then I can see that this turtle is actually moving at quite high speeds, and they can do about 20 to 30 kilometers an hour if they're being chased by a predator.
Wow. 30 kilometers is what, 18
being
miles
chased by
an hour?
predators. That's only for very short periods of time. They can't hold that up for very long periods of time.
That's pretty fast, though. That's cool. More questions that we have here. These are really good questions, you guys. If you have questions, you can @ Saito. I think most of you at this point know that, but @ Saito Jenny. One of these is, what's something that Australian or Queensland government is doing to help the turtles?
So there's a lot of research going into turtles, and a lot into the sand temperatures and how can balance the sand temperature to stop getting all feminism. Mm-hmm. They're also looking at other research of, the threats. Plastic is they banned plastic bags in Queensland.
Oh, cool.
Single-use plastic bags. Straws have been phased out, so plastic ingestion. They're also looking at areas of, high boating, that they go slow areas with them. So all of this research and, other threats that are occurring, all this research is going into what we can do to actually, have more animals survive and make it through to adulthood.
Yeah. Okay. Nice. That was a good question.
The other things is lighting around nesting areas. So what's happening now, a lot of places are looking at putting red lights, which is actually, they can't see that colour, red lighting, so it doesn't affect the hatchlings. Also looking at, nesting areas. So there is a lot of work being done by the Australian government or Queensland government into, protecting these animals and what we can do for their future.
Wow. That's really cool. That red light thing is interesting. Again, another thing that I had not thought of is them following a light. That's such a sad image.
It's terrible when you see it. It's a terrible thing to see.
A similar question, I Live asked, do you have school lessons of humane behavior with sea fauna, particularly turtles, in Australia and California? Not that I know of in California, but do they teach kids about that?
What was the question?
Do they teach in school humane lessons about how to I guess coexist with sea turtles?
Some schools have marine biology about, is they talk about marine animals and the threats and things like that. But just mainly the threats, what they can do as kids to step forward to help these animals. So they are doing a lot more school. We do school education as well. We go around to schools and talk about the threats that turtles have, what they can do to help them, and what they can say to their parents. And they can say no to plastic to their parents. Look at, what's been used in the household and what they can step forward to help these animals survive.
Yeah, cool, good. Dom, you also asked the question about the temperature affecting the sex of the turtle. So I got to that question before I read yours, but good question before. But another question that he asked is, do the colors of the shells vary by species, or how do you tell? Are there different patterns in the...
So, yes, they're different patterns. So
Okay.
It also goes on how many, you can actually look at a turtle with how many scoots on its head, how many scoots down the side. And also hawksbills are very different because they don't have a flat shell. Their scoots are actually raised, and
okay.
and also green sea turtles, when they're juveniles, have a real sunburst pattern. Hawksbills have a very beautiful pattern. That's why they're hunted for their tortoiseshell jewelry and tortoiseshell furniture. Flatbacks, of course, have got a skin over them, and they're a very light coloured turtle. Leatherbacks have got the big ridges on them, and loggerheads and greens are very similar.
How big
But we
are...
count them by the scoots. We count them by the scoots or scales down their side of their shell, how many they are, and olive ridleys.
Which one is the largest out of all the species?
Leatherback.
And how much do they weigh typically?
Up to 500 kilos, and I believe that, when they come out of the water, and Florida and Hawaii have got a lot of them, when they come out of the water, they say it's like VW coming out of the water.
That's
Insane.
1,100 pounds? That's how much
Yes.
my horse weighs. That's crazy.
They say it's like a VW coming out of the water.
Oh
They say
my
it's quite incredible.
gosh, that's amazing. Wes tipped $96 to get us to our $700 donation goal, and Sense
thank you.
tipped $1. So
Thank you.
thank you so much, Sense and Wes. Thank you so much. Super, super generous.
you,
That's
sir.
awesome. Wow, I had no idea that was that big. Could we pull up a photo of a leatherback when you guys, if you're able to do that, Lock and Saito? This is a good question. Sertraline asked, "What's a scoot?" I should have clarified that because you've been using that, and I never
Okay,
asked.
so I can know scoots, that's fine. So when you look at a turtle, all those little panels on them are scoots
Okay.
or scales. So
Yeah.
a scoot is actually, it's keratin, the same as our fingernail.
Yeah.
It's actually very thin. They have an enormous amount of layers of it. It's very, very thin. And what happens with scoots is that when they grow, that scoot, they have a bigger one underneath, and the top one falls off. So it's like snakes with scales.
Yeah. I
And
didn't know that.
they're scoots. So that's what a scoot is.
That's really cool. Good question. Thank you for asking that. I'm sure there are a lot of people thinking that also. Harder asked, how do they do in captivity? That was a question I was going to ask. If you have turtles that are non-releasable, do you have any that are ambassadors for education, or do they not do well in captivity?
We had one for a while that was an ambassador for education. She actually passed away at old age. So, but all of our turtles that we have in at the moment are releasable turtles.
Okay.
So we try to, because we get so many in, we actually, we look at the fact of, rehabilitation and release. And the benefit that we have at Cairns Turtle Rehabilitation Centre is we actually have a veterinary clinic attached to the rehabilitation centre. So every turtle that comes in gets a chance. And so we have turtles that come in that have horrendous injuries, but they pull through, and we rehabilitate them, and we release them back out into the wild. So the main aim is rehabilitation and release, not rehabilitation and keep.
Got it. Good. That's awesome. Alex asked, are females and males the same size or different? Are they sexually dimorphic? Are they different colors, or they look the same? There's a leatherback if you guys want to see. Okay.
They're virtually the same colours. The males might be a little bit bigger species. Greens, they're probably bigger. Leatherbacks are probably bigger, but it's not a huge amount.
Okay. I can't believe that we have a picture of a leatherback on screen.
Have you got one up there?
Yeah.
Huge, isn't it?
I can't believe that can weigh as much as my horse. That's insane. Very
They're
cool.
huge.
Yeah, no kidding. Okay, so this question is from Spoon. Said, how often do tragedies such as the turtle killing found in Hawaii happen, and how can we prevent them from happening in the future? Are you familiar with that?
So what's happening in Hawaii?
I'm not sure. In Molokai?
Is it hunting or is it netting or is it?
I'm not sure. Spoon, can you elaborate on that and maybe we can get back to it? Rip, thank you for the 10 months, and Andrew. Hang on one second. Okay. Maybe I'll go back to some questions, other questions that I have. Actually, now would be a good time to, if you could briefly talk about where the donations are going to again, because I know there are probably some people that are just tuning in.
So 100% of the donations goes towards the turtles, and it's going towards rehabilitating them, paying for their food. So that's the other thing I didn't talk about. So a big thing is the food bill. So turtles, as I was saying, when they're out on the the tide line and that, they're omnivores. They come back in, they become specialised feeders. But of course, when they come into rehabilitation, we can't feed them seagrass or we can't feed them sponges because we'd be there for 50 years trying to fatten them up.
Mm-hmm.
So we can change their diet back because they're omnivores, but they're very, very picky. So we feed them squid, human grade squid.
Oh, wow.
We feed them prawns and we peel the prawns, and they only like the really top grade prawns. So everything is human grade food.
Wow.
We also feed them fish, and they like whiting, which is not a cheap fish. And we feed them broccoli and lettuce and other bits so we can actually vary their diet. So it's very expensive. So, a year we might have a food bill every year of about $85,000, but these turtles eat top quality food. Wow. So a lot of that money goes in towards giving them a good diet so we can rehabilitate them correctly and release them back out into the wild.
Wow, that's crazy. So people are saying turtles are eating better than I am. Yeah, no kidding.
Oh, don't worry, they eat better than we do.
Yeah, I bet. How many turtles do you usually have at a time at the center?
So at the moment we actually have 12 turtles in.
Okay.
And we're going to have, once the cyclone season is ended, which is the end of, June, we have a cyclone season here, which we don't release during cyclone season because, we want to give them the best opportunity.
Yeah.
At the end of cyclone season, we actually have about 3 releases coming up, which will be great.
Oh,
but I've always learned, never say we've got an empty tank, because when we do, we get it full again.
Yeah. Tipsy just tipped $20. Tipsy, thank you so much. Spoon said, essentially groups of turtle, this is about the turtle in Hawaii killing thing, said essentially groups of turtles were found mutilated at a fishing spot in Hawaii. How often does this occur? Mutilated, like parts were taken, maybe, is what it sounds like, I guess, for jewelry or what you were talking about.
Jewelry and hunting, yes. Yeah, I know. Look, we haven't found aggregates like that of turtles, but it's probably tortoiseshell, hawksbill turtles for tortoiseshell jewelry, tortoiseshell furniture. Also, the other thing is with green sea turtles for their meat, and they take the flippers. Illegal hunting is a big thing, unfortunately.
Oh, yeah. Jeez. Spoon, thank you for that question. Sir Traylene asked, do they video their releases? Do they record their
Yes,
releases?
we do.
Cool.
We not only surface video, we actually go out to areas where we know there's safe. We release off platforms, but we also have divers down there, so we can actually video under the water too.
Oh,
and we can actually see what they're doing. So that's a really huge thing for research. So when we've got the divers down there, they can look at their behavior when they're actually released. They can look when they go under the water, what they do. And we also have surface people following them as well with video cameras. So all that gives us information on the behavior of what these animals actually do when they go back out into the wild.
Yeah, we have a video of a release playing on screen right now. So if you, I don't know, did you guys see the tracker on that turtle too, just so you get a feel for that? That was pretty neat. And do you post those? Do you guys on social media? You're on.
So if you go into Cairns Turtle Rehabilitation Centre .org, or the Facebook page, we actually post the videos up there, so you can actually see a lot of our releases up there.
Yeah, so there you go. So Saito, you can do command org for that website, and command guest if you want to see their socials. So their
Yes.
Facebook and Instagram if you guys want to go follow them. So you can see more releases. Really cool. Cool. Well, that was all of the viewer questions that we have today.
Thank you.
And
Interesting questions. Great questions.
really great questions, you guys. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. They were very, very good.
I'm trying to think. Oh, I wanted to ask this one question for me is you were awarded the Order of Australia Medal for Conservation. Can you tell us a
Pride
little
of
bit?
Australia.
Pride of Australia
medal.
Okay.
Pride of Australia medal. And also the Conservation Award for Australia.
Wow. Can you tell us a little bit about that and how you got that?
Well, it was very humbling.
Yeah.
I didn't know that I was going to get the award. Actually, the Pride of Australia medal was given to both Christian Miller and myself. We were both conservationists, which was fantastic. And it's, the nicest part about the conservation of the Vicente Conservation Award, it's really nice that the acknowledgement, it's not only about me, it's about the acknowledgement that people are actually looking at the plight of turtles, they're looking at the rehabilitation centre, they're looking at the work we're doing, and what we're, the things that are stepping forward to try and mitigate a lot of the problems that these turtles are actually encountering every day. So these awards is not just about me, it's actually about all our volunteers, it's about everybody stepping forward. And it's nice to think that the turtles were actually the ones that were actually acknowledged.
Yeah, that's awesome. And to close up for today, I guess, thank you so much for teaching us about turtles. I learned a lot. I know you guys learned a lot as well. Could you tell us or tell the viewers, even if they're not working with turtles or they're not volunteering with you guys, if they can't do that, what are things that they can do to protect turtles besides learning like you guys did today? And for those of you who donated, thank you so much.
There's a lot of things that everybody can do in their everyday life to actually protect turtles. I think the big thing is say no to plastics.
Yeah.
Also look at the cosmetics that have got microbeads in them. We had a turtle come down from Cape York, and it was probably about a week old when we got her. She was passing microbeads through for the first 10 days of microplastics.
Wow.
And so, the things that go out into the ocean are these microbeads from cosmetics, little bits of microplastic, polystyrofoam balls. I mean, bin bags are a disaster. Also packing polystyrofoam, plastics. Say no to straws. I mean, there's so many alternatives now, and there's also so many alternatives to plastic. There's cardboard. There's a lot of cardboard, strong cardboard being made. Also, don't buy as I was saying, don't buy tortoiseshell products or turtle meat products or turtle shells. And look, the other thing is what people don't realise. What goes down your sink goes out into the ocean, and that can cause toxins, and the turtles can ingest the seagrass that have this toxin, and that can cause a compromised immune system. There's many, many things that we can do every day to step forward to protect turtles. I think awareness.
Yeah, absolutely. The microbead thing I've heard of before. This is I think what we're talking about here, guys. Lots of cosmetics have these microbeads for like exfoliating, I think is what people think that they're for, or whatever.
That's right.
But yeah, but they are plastics.
You would have an app definitely in America that we've got an app that I can actually put it up to a product and it'll actually tell me.
Oh, how cool is that? Do you know what it's called? Or maybe I'll do some research and I'll.
Sorry, guys.
No, that's okay. I'll do some research and I'll let you guys know because that would be really cool. Good to know.
But yeah, it's a fantastic app, and it also the other thing shows palm oil.
Yeah, so we talked about this on our last podcast. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's these apps are fantastic, but what we don't realize is that a lot of the products have these microbeads in them, and microbeads, as we wash ourselves, go out into the ocean. And it's not only turtles, it's fish, it's, a lot of other animals that can actually, be affected. Seabirds, they'll pick it up and they'll feed it to their chicks. There's a lot of things. Also, another thing is with milk bottles with the plastic ring. Cut the plastic ring before you throw it away, because so many animals can have this caught around their necks, seabirds, fish, penguins, turtles, everything. And what we don't realize is things like that in our everyday life. What we can do is look at things and say, okay, is this going to affect an animal? Yes, it is. What can we do about it?
Yeah, that's a good point with the rings as well. Could
And
you
the other,
could you
sorry,
tell? No, go ahead.
I was going to say the other thing is a lot of people say to me, I'm only one person.
Yeah.
But a lot of one persons are people, and people's what going to drive the different. People are what is going to drive these animals being here for the future, for our future.
Yeah, totally. Could you, for those of you that weren't didn't catch the last podcast, could you tell them a little bit about why palm oil is harmful?
Well, palm oil is shocking. What they do is they're growing.
Dang it.
They're clearing.
Could you
clearing
say that
forests.
again? You just cut out there.
Sorry. So what they're doing is they're clearing the forests.
Yeah.
Over in Borneo and Indonesia, and putting up palm oil plants, and the forests are actually what the orangutans live in, and that. So it's actually it's driving the orangutans to extinction.
Yeah.
And they're killing off the orangutans and that to put up palm oil plants. So what it's doing is it's actually the animals that live there, they're driving the animals that live there into extinction to put up palm oil palms.
Okay. Yeah, guys, we're gonna have maybe not a whole stream, but we'll have a whole segment talking about palm oil. Saito's done some research, so we're gonna talk about that and talk about how we can all make better choices with our product consumption and whether or not it involves palm oil. So that'll be cool. I'm glad you brought that up. So we'll talk about that probably on the next desktop stream. Cool. So lots of stuff that we can all do. Thank you so much. That was awesome. We learned so much. Is there anything else that you want to talk about before we close up here?
I think the main thing is that, education is a great thing. If you get a chance, go to a meditation center, go and see the turtles, learn about the plights. Unfortunately, I was at a conference that said that, they expect that, turtles could go extinct in the future if people don't step forward and look at conserving these animals before it's too late.
Yeah. So if you guys get the chance, if you're able to, it would be amazing if you went and saw that center. Connor, thank you. Connor finished off our donation goal here, so we finished at $800.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you so much, Connor. I appreciate that. And everybody that donated, thank you. If you're not able to donate, but you're still here watching, also super, super important. So thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
And thank you, Jennifer, for being here. I really appreciate you being flexible with the time and for coming back, because I know that we wanted to do this for a little while, but I'm glad that we were able to. So
thank you, Naya.
Yeah, thank you so much.
I'm glad that everybody's going to go out with and new thoughts about turtles, about what they can do to protect the turtles out in the wild.
I agree. I think totally. Thank you so much. That's awesome. Okay, I will be in touch. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Okay, bye.
Bye. What an angel. Uber with $1.01. $801.01. Aristotle with 2 months. Mist Whisperer with the Twitch Prime. Thank you for the subs today, guys. I know I don't really call out subs while I'm doing the podcast. I usually just call out the donations. But thank you for subbing. Thank you for watching. Thank you for donating. $801.01. Today was a cool podcast because I feel like we learned a lot of tangible stuff about things that we can do that affect, really informative, that can affect sea turtle populations and lots of animal populations, with the palm oil stuff, with the plastics. So that's really cool. I'm really happy with that. And $801.01 going to the Sea Turtle Rehabilitation Center. So to help more turtles, Twitch is an untapped reservoir for doing good. Speaking of Twitch, speaking of chat, did you guys take notes? Who took notes? If you weren't here, you're gonna have to get notes from somebody else, because we're starting the quiz with you don't have the quiz. You're gonna take the quiz. Don't panic. It's gonna be okay. Let's see. This computer is somehow slower than mine, which is kind of crazy. Thank you for the... Thank you for...
My computer's not
no,
slow.
get
My
out.
computer's
Not right now.
slow.
Not right now. Not right now. Thank you for the really good questions today. I really appreciate the questions. I'm going to do this. I have to make the quiz, so you guys are gonna have to give me a minute. But get ready for your royalty-free pleases. Ready? Okay. Let's see. Mr. Dono. Oh, Roshan with the $20. Thank you so much. $821.01. Thank you. Appreciate that. Dude, you've been so supportive of this channel and of me for so long. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Especially the podcast, which means the world to me. So thank you so much. Get ready to dance. I'm going to do, let's see how fast we can make this happen. Okay, ready, set, go. So close. I'm so close. It's gonna take 2 seconds. I was so close.